In the criminal justice system, the people,
Pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care.
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
Has been made. The San Francisco IT consultant who murdered the Cash App. Was he the founder of Cash App?
Yeah, I remember that. The stabbing right in the middle of the street.
Remember the whole thing? They said, this is San Francisco. You can't walk safely from place to place. Well, as it turns out it was a grudge, right? It was about his sister.
It was targeted, yeah.
Yeah. So Bob Lee, who was the guy who was killed, and again, it led to this, whole thing about rampant street crime in San Francisco. It was a personal dispute that led to Lee's killing. Well, the guy who was involved in that personal dispute has now been sentenced. The jury had been asked to consider first-degree murder with an enhancement of using a deadly weapon. And as the verdict was read, how does the guy say his name? Momeni?
Yeah. Nima Momeni. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He faces 16 years to life in prison. Lee was 43 years old, the founder of the Cash App. And he was rushed to a hospital when he was found with the injuries. Tony's showing you some of it now. In any case, the case immediately generated controversy because your pal, SpaceX's Elon Musk, posted on social media after Lee's death about crime in San Francisco, questioned the DA about repeat violent offenders. But instead, a week later, San Francisco cops arrested Momeni, 40 years old. He's not a repeat offender. His sister was friends with Lee, and Momeni was accused of driving Lee to the secluded area and then stabbing him 3 times with a 4-inch kitchen knife. Lee was stabbed in the heart. And the whole argument was over the sister. So he's found guilty, and sentencing will follow. Am I right, Kim?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Yeah. Meantime, on the other side of law and disorder, the judge ruling that Donald Trump does not have presidential immunity in the hush money conviction. Remember, we talked about this at length, the fact that he wasn't president when this money was paid. So if there's anything about this money that falls into the realm of illegality, it is something that won't fall into the realm of illegality and give you immunity as president since you weren't president at the time of the illegality. So the felony conviction in that New York hush money case should not be tossed out because of the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity, that according to Judge Juan Merchan. That ruling just coming in yesterday. Of course, Trump found guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records. In our view, it was the weakest case against him, meaning it had the least stink on it, if you want to think of it that way. The jacking of documents, I thought the jacking of top secret documents, taking them to Mar-a-Lago, taking them to the bathroom at Mar-a-Lago, the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago, the bedroom at Mar-a-Lago, the closet at Mar-a-Lago, waving them around to guests at Mar-a-Lago. I thought by far that was the most compelling case. It's inexplicable and indefensible. So there's no way he can explain it. So you remember at the time he was saying, well, I declassified those documents or whatever it was. I mean, it was all so tepid and weak. And yet he got his concierge judge down in Florida, Judge Cannon, to scuttle the case. And so that case never came to pass. So the only case, and then of course there's the J6 case as well, but the only case, and the Georgia case, where he's actually messing with and trying to manipulate the outcome of an election. But the only case that did actually come to term is the hush money conviction. And now he will not get any kind of cover on that.
We've talked to David Katz, our former federal prosecutor, legal analyst on the show, who's now a defense attorney, and he seems to think that despite this, the penalty for this is not going to be jail. There's not going to be jail time involved. This is what he thinks.
Yeah, I mean, based on everything he's said over and over, he's been really immovable on that. And I would say, yeah. And I also, this is just to double back to the campaign. I always felt, and I know it's said over and over again, and it's said by so many in our audience and so many of our guests, and so please don't misunderstand me, but I always felt he's a felon. He's a 34 times convicted felon. Mm-hmm. I felt, in a way, for people who were leaning toward Trump, it didn't matter. It was like, and here's why it didn't matter. Yeah, but what was he actually convicted of? Paying some hush money to a porn star? I mean, really? Like, is that a felony that I care about? That's why I liked the documents case, because that is a case that you should care about. Those are top secret military documents in many cases that were jacked. And then when they asked for their return, they offered first letters, then a subpoena. They actively, under Trump's direction, hid those documents. I mean, to me, that case was so juicy with everything that is criminal in Trump land, and yet we never got a chance to see it. So I get back to the 34 counts, people going, yeah, he's paying the hush money to a porn star. I don't think that's a big deal. I mean, I heard that from a lot of people, that it was a political jihad, you know? That was their political jihad. Now, speaking of political jihads, I'll get to Trump's and how he's going after the media in a little while. But first, he reacted to Merchan's decision, which was to rule that he doesn't have presidential immunity. Trump really went off on him, right, Kim?
Yeah, he lost it.
Called him a radical partisan.
Mm-hmm. All on Truth Social. This big angry message that he's famous for posting these things overnight. And Judge Merchan was the target of this one. He said, Merchan is a radical partisan who is deeply conflicted, corrupt, biased. He described the ruling as a psychotic order that goes against our Constitution. What?
Right.
Trump says he's being held under an illegal gag order by Merchan, and if he was released from it, he would expose the judge and the judge's family's disqualifications. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean, he went off. Got his money's worth from that Truth Social, you know. Uses it to kind of tee up his attacks. All right, with that, that's Law and Disorder.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.